if Marvel's gonna be a drag from now on, I'm not gonna just go and spend money in the movie theaters anymore. I'm okay with spending a little bit of cash on Disney Plus, but other than that, just no.
I'm not even doing that. So right now, I'm actually mooching off a friend. I'm not even using my Disney Plus account. I'm using a friend's account because I don't want to pay for this. But anyways, hey,
boy.
how you doing, everyone? This is Ram from RamsTheNameCom, and I'm here with Look at My Snits, doing a
Look at my
leisure debate on Moon Knight, the Disney Plus TV series. I'm a big fan of Moon Knight. Look at My Snits, a big fan of Moon Knight. You want to know what we think about it? It's pretty, as a TV show, as an MCU show, it's mediocre. It's not as good as it can possibly be. Episode 1 is decent. Episode 3 is entertaining. Episode 5 is great. But then everything else is bad. It's not worth your time. But,
yeah, it's not worth your time.
As a TV show.
I don't
But then as a...
Especially when he's, turning into, his suit. He summons his suit like the new animated series Spider-Man back in, what was that, 2000? Nobody remembers that.
I don't know which one that is. I think that's the MTV Spider-Man. But anyways, this is Moon Knight. So, anyway, as a show, it's decent. If you're just going in for an MCU show, this is generic, this is bland, but it's decent. But if you're looking for a Moon Knight adaptation, this sucks. This is like Trek levels of adaptation. It's Moon Knight in name only. It doesn't feel like Moon Knight. It doesn't sound like Moon Knight. It's just Moon Knight in name only. It's a very bad adaptation.
For some reason, yeah.
No, you can.
Yeah, you're right. It's a bad adaptation. If you read all the comics, well, look, except for the modern ones, I guess you might be impressed.
Yeah, it's very similar to the Jeff Lemire Moon Knight, but it doesn't do the whole rich mercenary turned vigilante who uses gadgets and stuff. It's not that Moon Knight. It's just him being chosen by God and being mentally ill and dealing with his dissociative identity disorder and dealing with childhood abuse, which, fun fact, he was not abused as a child growing up in any of the comic books. Even in the new comic books, he was not abused during his childhood. What actually happened was, in the 2018 comic books, it's mentioned that young Mark Spector was actually witnessing his family friend murder a kid in his basement. So, yeah, it's not anything like the comic book version, because the comic book version didn't deal with childhood abuse. I guess maybe the Jeff Lemire one, but they don't even mention it. They just say, oh, he has dissociative identity disorder ever since he was a kid, but they don't show how he got it. He just had it ever since he was a kid. And then the 2018 Max Bemis one, the one that everyone hates, that one explains, of course, he witnessed a family friend murder a kid in his basement. That traumatized him, giving him dissociative identity disorder. But if we're going about childhood abuse in any of the Moon Knight comic books, that never happened. But Mark Spector did abuse his dad growing up in the comic books. So he did beat his dad in the comic books, but his dad and his mom did not beat him in the comic books.
I didn't know that part. What?
It was in the 80 comic books, the Doug Munch comic books. It wasn't written by Doug Munch, but it was in the Doug Munch era of Moon Knight. His dad embarrassed him in a boxing match, and so Mark Spector lashed out by beating him in the boxing ring.
Wow, I never knew that one. I must have missed that one. I bought like most of the comics, so it must be one of the expensive ones on a comic shop. I totally missed.
Moon Knight comic books are getting expensive now. So those Doug Munch era $1 comic books are now like $20 a piece now.
Whoa, I might actually
sell them.
Just start selling them now. Yeah, just to gain some money. I'm not poor or anything, but it's like time to make that money. What are you doing? Prices are going up in the grocery stores. What are you gonna do? Eat a bunch of noodles, hot dogs, and egg sandwiches for your whole life? Is that what?
Do you have any of the Jeff Lemire 2016 comic books?
Yes, I. Still
you have all of them.
Why?
You have all of them?
I have most of them. Why?
Each one of those, each issue is worth $50 a piece.
Oh my.
Yep.
Yeah, I got some.
I don't like them, but they're worth a fortune now, a small little fortune. So if you have them, sell them individually, and you can get $50 a piece.
That is amazing. I made a mistake. a friend of mine might still be borrowing them, so I gotta get my big booty over there and
Yeah,
grab them. Oh boy, he's probably been borrowing them for over a year.
isn't it?
That's how much I care about the Jeff Lemire
Yeah.
comics. I just remember him being mentally ill in an asylum, but I guess it turns out it was just in his head, him fighting monsters and all that crap, with the other characters in the Doug Munch comic series. And at the end of it, it's exactly like the ending of the Moon Knight TV show. Did it happen? Was this real? Is he actually just talking to himself or a different personality? I don't know.
Well, in the TV show, it's made clear that everything was not in his head, and it actually did happen, except for the psychiatric ward or the mentally what is it, the insane asylum or the mental health asylum or whatever it's called. That place is not real. It's all of it in his head. It's like his version of the heaven. So it's like a
Yeah.
dreamscape to like help deal with his mental health issues, but that place is not real. It's all in his head and in his imagination. But everything else, everything with Arthur Harrow, everything
Layla?
with Layla, everything with Khonshu, that actually did happen in real time in the real world. It was not a dream.
Okay.
But
I beg to
in the
differ.
Jeff Lemire comic books, at least not Jeff Lemire, but Max Bemis confirmed that everything that happened in the Jeff Lemire comic books is not real. It all happened in his head, and he was just in an insane asylum. And in the insane asylum, he just imagined fighting these monsters when actually he's beating up people trying to help him in the insane asylum, trying to say, "Hey, take it easy, buddy. We're trying to help you." And he's like, "No, no, no! I gotta get out. I gotta help Khonshu." So he starts beating up those guys, but
Huh.
in actuality, that never happened. It was all in his imagination. And in the Max Bemis comics, they confirmed that. But apparently, according to Jeff Lemire fans, that's not the case. And everything that happened in the Insane Asylum actually did happen. But that's the Jeff Lemire fans and Jeff Lemire saying that. But Max Bemis says it's not. So, do you go with what the Marvel canon's saying, or do you want to go with what Jeff Lemire wanted? Either way, you lose, in my opinion. But anyway, going back.
Yeah, don't believe anything that Max Bemis says. He literally has a song that says, "I hate everyone," so he's just here to hate, 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 hate. I hate everyone. Just, dude, stop being an annoying prick.
But anyway,
Oops, that too much?
overall, how do you feel about the Moon Knight TV show overall?
I was trying not to fall asleep while my brother was having a decent time watching it because he doesn't read any of the comics. He doesn't even know who Moon Knight really is. Doesn't even know his powers. So he would have easily have given that show an 8 out of 10, I believe. He had a good time watching it. I did not. Yeah, every time when Arthur Harrow would show up, I would get bored out of my mind, and I would just constantly be just talking over his dialogue. For example, when Arthur Harrow would start talking, I'd be like to my brother, "Oh, he's gonna talk us to death," because that's what Khonshu used to do it to him when he used to be his avatar, talk to him to death, and now he's passive aggressive all the time. Wow,
Yeah.
amazing. And what exactly are their powers in this movie? I guess they can superfly, do mind control.
Okay, so the
And-
flying ability at the end of
Yeah.
the series, because in episode 6, Moon Knight can fly, quote unquote fly. It's like shown, not tell, that Khonshu has the ability to create wind. So Khonshu create like a small tornado to push Moon Knight into the sky and fly him to his to Arthur Harrow's position. So he wasn't flying; he was gliding on the wind that Khonshu made. So, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, of course. You gotta use that cape to glide.
This
and-
is
Super jump.
the stand-in for the mooncopter. Are you happy that they didn't include the mooncopter? They instead had him glide with the wind.
Oh, people are gonna say, "Hey, that's a Batman reference" all the time. I can easily see that. Batman glides, Moon Knight glides.
Well, the Blue
Whatever.
Beetle has a helicopter too. Why don't you compare Moon Knight to the Blue Beetle from DC Comic Books?
Fine, you know what? Everybody who has a copter or a cape is automatically ripped off from Batman. Just whatever. Let's just say
Oh,
that. My God.
Even the Shadow, because the Shadow has a helicopter he uses to get from point A to point B. He doesn't even have a themed car. He has a themed helicopter. That's his thing. That's his shtick, if you would.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's just Snikt.
Yeah.
Yep. Hey, I'm looking at the IMDb
Moon
site
Knight.
for full cast and crew
Yeah.
of Moon Knight. Yeah, and it says that uh, Doug Munch is a writer actor for the show. Why do they lie about this stuff? It's so funny, and apparently Jack Kirby and Stanley. I don't know. I don't know what type of writing. Who writes this crap? Unknown episodes they
Yeah, I
were in,
think they
but
keep.
yeah, screw that. I didn't know there was
I
any.
think they put Jack Kirby and Stan Lee's names in every single every single Marvel production as like a stand-in, saying like, "Oh, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, they're like the icons. They're like the go-to team for every Marvel superhero," even though that's a lie. Stan Lee and Jack Kirby have
Yeah.
nothing to do with Moon Knight in the comic books and in the TV show. They have nothing to do with Moon Knight. And Doug Munch, the only Moon Knight related thing that this TV show adapted from Doug Munch was the origin story from Moon Knight, which would be him dying in Egypt and being reborn into
The statue of Khonshu.
into Moon Knight. But they didn't even adapt it 1-to-1, and they barely showed it. It's more like, oh, it happened way after. Like, this is 2 years into his Moon Knight career that they're doing this whole entire Moon Knight show based on. 2 years after he became Moon Knight, so we barely get to see his origin story in this, which is weird because he's a brand new superhero for Marvel Studios for live action media. This is the first film adaptation of Moon Knight, and instead of showing the origin story one by one, you decide to just show it in the background like you've seen the origin story already. You've seen it in every other film before. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. Why you lie, Marvel Studios? Why don't you show every detail? Why don't you show Bushman? We don't even see Bushman in this.
Yeah, and Marlene. They could have had Marlene in this. Just do a scene
That's
with
the
her.
funny thing, too. They didn't want to use Marlene. Kevin Feige mentioned that he originally wanted Echo to be Moon Knight's love interest in this. And what's his name? Jeremy Slater, the guy who wrote the script for the Moon Knight TV show, he fought tooth and nail so that Layla, or the Scarlet Scalar, would get into the show instead of Echo, because he didn't want Echo, he wanted Marlene, but they didn't want Marlene, they wanted someone who's divorced, so like a superhero already, a female superhero being in this Moon Knight show. So no matter what, it has to be a female superhero in this show, so they didn't want Marlene, so instead of having Echo, Jeremy Slater looked into the archives of Marvel comic books and found Scarlet Scalar, which is a guy. He's a male Egyptian-themed superhero, quote-unquote superhero. He protects... He's like Namor, he's like Aquaman, or the Black Panther. He protects Egypt, and that includes protecting Egypt from, superheroes like Thor, because he's a Thor villain, but he's not a villain. And he only has 15 comic appearances in the comic books, 15 issues he appeared in. But he was good enough to adapt into this Marlene-type character, into a gender-flipped female version of him to be the stand-in for Marlene. And I think it's decent. It's a decent idea because, number one, I don't like Marlene in the comic books. She's kind of a bitch, to be honest with you guys.
Yeah, whenever Mark Spector is down in the dumps, she's barely there for him.
And Marlene treats Mark Spector like garbage in the comic books. She's mostly there for his money, and she loves him for Stephen Grant. She doesn't love him for Mark Spector. She wants Mark Spector to become Stephen Grant and be like her dream husband, because she wants to like move to like an island resort, so some fancy island, and live in a mansion and get she wants like the happy rich life, and she knows that Stephen Grant can give it to her, and she doesn't like Mark Spector. She doesn't like his past. She doesn't care about his past. She wants Stephen Grant, and she doesn't want him to be a superhero anymore. She wants him to give up the cape, give up fighting crime as Moon Knight. She wants Mark Spector to just give up everything, give up his happiness to be with her. So I hate Marlene with a passion. So I'm happy that they replaced Marlene with Layla or some new character. But I don't like Layla in this. She's kind of bland. She's kind of like a Mary Sue type cattle.
Condescending.
Well, Marlene was condescending too in the comic books. So, yeah.
I guess we're trying to make her exactly like
I guess.
Marlene Arlon. Oh, so annoying. And by the way, in the comics, didn't Mark Spector? I mean Stephen Grant. I mean Jake Lockley. I mean Moon Knight. Oh, what's his name again? I totally forget. Rufin? Was it Rufin?
Ruben.
I'm sorry.
His name is Ruben.
No. Layla calls Stephen Grant Rufin, or Ruben in the show. I forget which one what it was. But anyways, in the comics, yeah, he's already living in a mansion in Los Angeles, correct? Was it Los
In the
Angeles?
comic books, he was living in Chicago. Not Chicago.
Oh, Chicago.
In some comic books, he's fighting crime in Chicago, but he lives in a mansion on Long Island, New York. So he lives in New York on Long Island, right next to Billy Joel's mansion.
No, what? Right next to Billy Joel?
Well, Billy Joel lives in a mansion on Long Island, so that's why I brought it up.